Welcome back to another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. We are back once again to bring you a weekly recap video, this time of Monday Night Raw, which took place in February 23rd, 2026 in Atlanta, Georgia, where we paid tribute to the phenomenal AJ Styles. A little sooner here than usual, so don't have all the pictures, but we'll go through all of the happenings of Monday Night Raw per usual in a segment by segment basis. We kick off the show a little different this week with Cole and Graves in the middle of the ring as they begin to sing the praises of AJ Styles, but are quickly interrupted by the ring general, Gunther, who is less than pleased about dedicating an entire episode of Raw to a loser like AJ. Gunther then goes on to say that instead this episode should be dedicated to someone like him. Adam Pearce comes out furious per usual and is less than pleased with Gunther's actions and tells Gunther to leave the building. As Gunther is headed back to the ramp, back up the ramp, he then decides to toy with the crowd a little bit more, but this time is ambushed by Dragon Lee, obviously having been put on the shelf there for a bit by Gunther a couple weeks ago, and their brawling spills to the back before being separated by security. Yeah, I feel a bit for Gunther just because every time he comes out, he's told to leave the arena. But then we see similar antics by the Vision, and nothing really happens. So I think eventually they're gonna have to give Gunther something a bit more. If that means a match with Dragon Lee, so be it. But coming out and doing the same thing eventually is going to get old even for the biggest Gunther supporters like myself. We then get into the next segment of the evening, which has the American Nightmare making his way down to the ring, as seen kind of passing by the chaos between Gunther and Adam Pearce. He too then tries to sing the praises of AJ, but gets cut off by the Vision, who I was just kind of mentioning. Basically, to put over Bronson Reed, let everyone know that once he wins the qualifying match tonight, he'll then be winning the Chamber and then winning at Mania, and the Vision will then be taking over SmackDown, and Cody Rhodes will be the first out the door. Cody then goes on to say he thinks someone might have something to say about that, and it is none other than one half of the World Tag Team Champions, Jey Uso. How poorly that entire segment ends up aging over the course of just the evening and, well, over the next 20 minutes, honestly. That does get us into the next match, which is the first match of the evening and last qualifying match of the men's side, featuring Bronson Reed, Jey Uso, and the original El Grande Americano. This was an okay match, but did feel quite off, and I think that has to be because of Bronson Reed being seen at ringside, being attended to by the medical staff, not seen again, and the action stopping pretty quick. I'm assuming to call an all audible here, kind of get that communicated to El Grande and Jey Uso. I assumed Bronson was the shoe-in here, but in the end it was Jey Uso landing a spear and an Uso splash on the original El Grande to get the win and is the final man to qualify for the Elimination Chamber and will join Randy Orton, LA Knight, Cody Rhodes, Javon Evans, and Trick Williams this Saturday at Elimination Chamber. A bit of a letdown overall for me, at least, though, because not only was the match probably the worst qualifying match I think we've seen in the build to Elimination Chamber, but also later in the night, our fears are confirmed as Cole announces that Bronson has suffered a torn bicep and will be out indefinitely. So awful news for Bronson himself, obviously, but also has to raise some questions for the future of the Vision as they've now lost two of their top biggest members. It's tough. Hopefully a speedy recovery for Bronson, but just looking ahead, you have to fear for the Vision and how they're going to book that going forward. But I guess we'll wait and see. And an unfortunate time for the injury bug, but WWE and the machine that they are will have to make something else work, and they'll have to continue to make their plans for WrestleMania without two of the biggest members of the Vision. The next segment of the evening has Liv Morgan accompanied by the one and only Dirty Dominic Mysterio, making her way down to the ring, who is set to make her decision on the champion she will face at WrestleMania. Dom then brings down the two champions that Liv has to choose from, La Primera Stephanie Vaquer and the Storm Jade Cargill. Liv first confronts Fakir, and she says that she has no idea it took her. She said that she was being, she wasn't used to being that vulnerable, but said that she had no idea it took her that long and how hard she had to scratch and claw to get to WWE. She then turns her attention to Jay, but it's all a ploy, as Liv then immediately turns her attention back to Vicaire, hits her with a microphone, and then Oblivion, as her choice for WrestleMania is made quite clear. It will be Liv Morgan going up against Stephanie Vaquer for the Women's World Championship in our second official set to take place match at WrestleMania. The next match of the evening has Maxine Dupree going up against Natty, continuing their feud as their last match was cut quite short. Unfortunately, this match is basically kind of goes the same way. Doesn't last long either, as Maxine gets thrown into the ring post and barely moves after this, looking though as if she's almost gone unconscious. That doesn't stop Natty from landing a few more punches while the opportunity presents itself, but then the referee does kind of signal to end the match. So continuing on with that feud, I guess we'll have to wait and see what comes next from it. We then see Brock Lesnar with Paul Heyman in a bit of a strange segment here. Not only because Paul is still the mouthpiece of Brock, kind of just pulling double duty and kind of pretending like, that's just normal, I guess. But maybe someone can tell me why Brock is back. I know I can speak for KP and I when I say we couldn't care less, don't really need him back. But for whatever reason, they feel the need to do so. Paul then points to the Jumbotron, which shows the planned dates for Brock Lesnar leading up to Mania. Paul then basically goes on to say if anyone in the back has the balls to face Brock at Mania, he's going to be there. The whole point of this thing, I think, was to announce that he will be in action at Mania. Perhaps they think that's the solution to the sales not being quite what they think they should be. Couldn't be the prices, but basically issuing an open challenge was the point of this whole thing, and I guess we'll have to wait and see. As long as it's someone coming to beat Brock, no issues with me there. The next match of the evening has Javon Evans with Offset, because we love guest appearances, guest celebrity appearances, if you will, going up against Kofi Kingston of the New Day with Xavier Woods and Grayson Waller. Javon ends up getting the win here after not only overcoming both Xavier and Grayson's distractions, but also a hurt knee. But in the end, all it took was a bit of a distraction from Offset, taking out the likes of those previously mentioned distractions. And an OG cutter from Javon allows him to get the win, looking quite strong going into Elimination Chamber. CM Punk then makes his way down to the ring ahead of his World Heavyweight Championship contest with Finn Balor on Saturday. Punk goes on to say he doesn't like to deal with what ifs, but this could be the last time he gets to greet the WWE Universe as World Heavyweight Champion. Punk then goes on to talk about Roman and how he won't be at Raw until next week, while teasing the crowd in the meantime. Further continuing down this weird road that Finn might walk away from Elimination Chamber with that title. It's a bit of a strange game, but speaking personally, I would love to imagine that what if. But we'll have to wait and see. I think realistically speaking, we're just hoping for a good match, and maybe somehow, some way, Finn finds a way to get on the Mania card. But hard pressed to think it's going to be part of this Punk Roman storyline. So we then get into our next match of the evening, which is the final Women's Elimination Chamber qualifying match. And this has half of the Women's Tag Team Champion Io Sky going up against Raquel Rodriguez, going up against Kairi Sane. Io and Kairi join forces here to keep Raquel out of the conversation for what feels like 3/4 of the match. Basically, I guess, to keep the biggest woman out, as we typically see in these kind of contests. But even though Raquel has to field what feels like 90% of the offense in this match, she still finds a way to get the win with a Tejada bomb and books her ticket for the Elimination Chamber in a very surprising but welcome surprise, at least on my end, where she will join Tiffany Stratton, Rhea Ripley, Alexa Bliss, Asuka, and Kiana James this Saturday for a chance to face Jade Cargill for that WWE Championship. So this was definitely the match of the night for me. It didn't have a ton of competition, I will admit, But all three women here really looking good, showing up, showing out. We then get into our main event segment, which has us finally paying tribute to the phenomenal one, AJ Styles. This starts off with a very emotional look back on his time in the ring, both inside WWE and out. Obviously, we had TNA mentions here as well and footage thanks to that partnership there. Then, to my surprise, we actually do get to see the phenomenal one himself. Maybe that was announced and I missed it, but AJ making his way down to the ring. I didn't feel the Atlanta crowd really reacted as I guess as shocking or loud as they should have here, but perhaps it just didn't translate well over TV, or perhaps that was very heavily announced to the live crowd and or through social media, and I just hadn't seen it yet. But regardless, AJ comes to the ring, thanks everyone for this night and allowing him to wrestle all around the world throughout his career. He then goes on to sing the praises of all the friendships he's made during said time. He then shouts out his family and especially his wife, living up to what we've always heard about AJ, and that he's just a very down-to-earth guy and just generally seems like a good dude. I don't say that about a ton of WWE talent that end up being as big as he is, but he is one of the few that I genuinely do feel like is a good person. He then goes on to address the reason he didn't leave the gloves in the ring at the Royal Rumble, which has me nervous. AJ says that he didn't do that because he wanted to leave them in the ring when he was home, and that's exactly what he then does here. The crowd serenades us with "Thank you, AJ's," and the rest of the locker room comes out as well to show their appreciation. Me and KP and I hit on that on the Royal Rumble reactions. Thought they should have done that there, but if this was always the plan, then maybe we can forgive that a little bit. But then we hear the gong of the American Badass, The Undertaker. At this point, I'm extremely shocked, but also extremely worried, even more nervous than I was earlier. Sitting here thinking to myself, please don't make this a match. Please don't do it. Luckily, Undertaker then tells AJ that announces to AJ that he is the newest inductee of the WWE Hall of Fame for this year, and absolutely 100% deserves it. And this is a great way to end the show. No match announced there, thank goodness. And yeah, I was conflicted. I had thoughts that maybe he would come back and do another match at Mania. You'd seen the dirt sheet saying that was the original plan, but I'm glad they didn't do it. I feel like I would have been extremely conflicted and would have taken away what was a special moment in that the last few matches of the career of AJ Styles in WWE. Overall, this was our episode of Raw and the recap for it. Unfortunately for me, I think this was probably one of the worst Raws of the year. And, you know, just based on the action alone, we didn't have a ton of it, obviously. But had a very go home show feel to it. Main roster is notorious for doing that, and I feel like this absolutely was the definition of a go home feel show. Tons of storyline and such, but it did feel like we were kind of just delaying the inevitable and didn't really add a ton. But a couple of good matches, a couple of decent matches. The women's, like I said earlier, women's elimination chamber match obviously being the highlight. And then, of course, from an in-ring perspective, that is. But then, of course, seeing AJ back in the ring one more time, getting his final farewell from the crowd and the locker room, and then having Undertaker come out and getting our second announcement for the WWE Hall of Fame class for this year, joining the likes of Stephanie McMahon. That was a great moment and a great way to end the show. But yeah, outside of that, I'd probably give this episode a 6.5 out of 10. That maybe feels a bit harsh, but without that AJ Styles inducted bit there at the end, I probably would have been looking at a 6, maybe even less than that. But definitely on the low end of shows we've seen so far in the year 2026 for Monday Night Raw. But enough from us here at The Push. What did you all make of this episode of Raw? Please let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button as well, as that does help us out quite a bit. We'll be back shortly with that NXT and SmackDown recap, and of course, we will have an Elimination Chambers prediction and reactions video for you as well this upcoming week. But until next time, this has been The Push with Nick and KP. We'll see you soon. Take care.